Yes, hello guys. This is Melmar Mulera. I'm doing my voice recording for my report in environmental issues and concerns, which is the chapter 8, the nuclear radiation accidents and safety. So nuclear radiation accidents and safety is defined by International Atomic Energy. It is an event that has led to significant consequences to people, to the environment, or to the facility, including lethal effects to individuals, radioactive isotopes to the environment, and major accidents rather. Serious nuclear accidents have been few and far between, but their stories will help prevent future catastrophes. So these are the only major accidents to have occurred in over 17,000 cumulative reactor years of commercial nuclear power operation in the countries. First is the Fukushima, Japan. The earthquake and tsunami that struck eastern Japan on March 11, which caused serious accidents at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant on the northeastern coast of Japan, that leads to the reactive hydrogen explosion that contaminated a wide area of surrounding, which forced evacuation of nearly 500,000 residents. The second is the Chernobyl in Ukraine on April 26, 1986. It happens when a sudden surge of power during a reactor system's test resulted in an explosion and fire that destroyed Unit 4 because the workers did not implement adequate safety precautions that leads to a failed backup operator test. It is considered world's nuclear disaster. Third is at the 3 Mile Island in the Middletown, Pennsylvania, USA on March 28, 1978. When the partial meltdown is considered the most serious nuclear accident in US history due to the loss of coolant and operator's error, resulted only in small radioactive release. Next is the Enrico Fermi Unit 1 in Michigan, USA on October 5, 1966. It was the nation's first and only commercially operating liquid metal fast breeder reactor, and caused of vibrations and coolant flow blockage, and partially returned until 1972 but officially decommissioned in 1975. The next is DESL Unit 1 in Idaho, USA on January 3, 1961. The withdrawal of a single control rod caused a catastrophic power surge and steam explosion, cause of the workers' error that leads to kill all the workers on duty. The next is sodium reactor experiment on California, USA on July 1959. A partial meltdown occurred due to cooling flow blockage that caused the reactor core to overheat. And the last accident is the Windscale accident in Cumberland, now Cumbria, UK, on October 10, 1957. The Windscale Unit 1 core caught fire and melted, which led large amounts of radioactivity to be released to the surrounding. It took 3 days to put out the fire and more than 200 cancer deaths accident. It is considered the most accident occur in the West. Such an accident could happen if a complication arose during the transportation or use of radioactive materials for medical or industrial purposes, or if a serious operational problem were to occur in a nuclear facility. The most serious accident would start from overheating of the reactor core at a nuclear power plant. However, safety mechanisms are in place to prevent such an accident from occurring. First, understand the consequences for human health. The discharge of radioactive materials can affect human health. It can increase the risk of developing cancer. The impact on health depends on the intensity of the source of radiation, the proximity, the type of radiation, and the exposure time. The people may be exposed to, first, external irradiation, which mainly concerns on personnel at nuclear power plants. Second, the internal contamination, which caused by breathing in radioactive elements or by ingesting contaminated food or water, or the radioactive elements enter the body through a wound. The third is external contamination, which in when radioactive dust settles on the skin, hair, and clothing. Next is find about facilities are at risk in your own area. We must know if there are some nuclear plant in our place so that we can always be ready if something happened. Next is, in the event of a nuclear accident, take shelter. The first step in the event of a nuclear accident is to take shelter. Do not attempt to return to your home if you have taken shelter elsewhere. Do not take shelter in a car, since a vehicle is not as effective as a building to protect you from radioactive materials. If you don't have a choice, close the windows and the ventilation system of your car if you have no choice than to take shelter in it. Take shelter for as long as the authorities ask you to, because radioactive materials discharged into the environment are invisible and odorless. Next is take iodine tablets if prescribed. When recommended by the Director of Public Health, take the prescribed dose of iodine tablets. This reduces the risk of internal contamination. It should be kept in the same location as other medication in a safe, warm place, out of reach of children and away from light and humidity. But be sure in taking iodine tablets. Some people are known to allergy to iodine. There are secondary effects of iodine tablets. Mild and temporary discomfort may occasionally occur. Next is follow the instructions of the authorities. In the event of a nuclear accident, consult the media for instructions issued by the authorities. And in the event of environmental contamination, the authorities may prohibit consumption of fresh food and water or certain outdoor activities, because radioactive releases can contaminate to different degrees the air, water, soil, and food within a radius that may vary depending on the circumstances. Next is evacuate your home. The authorities may order the preventive evacuation of a sector prior to the possible release of radioactive materials. The evacuation center within a close perimeter of the accident in the event of prolonged exposure to the radioactive releases. Next is know what to do after a disaster. Consult the after a disaster section to learn instructions and recommendations for getting back to normal and safe manner. So that's all for my report. Thank you and keep safe.